Well, if you're a junior or senior in high school, this is the show for you. We help demystify the college planning process, and we're providing real answers to parents with real kids. I'm here with my co-host, Bobby Hood, who I call the guru of college test prep. And what I do with students is I help them figure out a career path after high school. And the reason that this helps parents is it's taking our kids 6 years to get through a 4-year college education. And if they have an idea walking into college, what they'd like to do for a career, we're seeing that it's taking them closer to that 4 years to get through a college education. So if you need any of that help, please give me a call. Today, the topic that we're discussing is Bobby is going to take us through everything having to do with the ACT and SAT testing process, because that's what he knows. So, Bobby, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about this. And I will tell you, this process, I hear more questions about when I'm out talking to parents. And it's just, there's just a lot. And I wanted to start first with the basics. And that Absolutely. Is, there are 2 tests, SAT, ACT. Can you just talk to us a little bit about, number one, why are there 2 tests? And then tell us that first, and then I'll ask you a couple other questions.
Absolutely. Okay, and so let me start really quickly by introducing myself once again. I'm Bobby Hood. I'm a tutor for the SAT and ACT, as well as various other tests, the grad school tests and things like that. And I tutor students all day, every day, mostly high school students for the SAT and ACT. And so this is the first question, right, is how do you choose between the SAT and ACT? And back in the day, the tests were very different. And so it was a big question. How do you choose between the SAT and ACT? And then back in 2015, they redesigned the SAT so that it basically got to be very similar to the ACT. And so now the decision is not quite as important as it used to be, which means if you prepare for one of them, the SAT or the ACT, you're going to be pretty prepared for both of the tests. So that's step one. Don't worry so much about it. Just start preparing for the tests. Step 2, though, is the basic difference between the SAT and ACT. It depends on the student. The ACT is a very time-pressured test. It is not as difficult as the SAT, except that it is very time-pressured. The SAT is a more difficult test, but gives you more time. So by default, a lot of students are going to like the SAT more because they don't feel as rushed. But then they're going to probably get a lower score on the SAT because they thought they got questions right, but they got tricked on them because they're so hard. Whereas on the ACT, a student who hasn't prepared is going to feel very rushed. They're going to get right a lot of the questions that they do, and then they're going to just run out of time and have to leave a third of the section blank because they didn't run out of time. And so once you have prepared and you deal with that time pressure, the ACT turns out to be, for a lot of students, a preferable test, but it really depends on the student and how they respond to that.
Well, a question for you that. So I didn't know that, which is really good. And for me as a student, I was never good at these types of tests. I really had to think about it. If the ACT is time sensitive, and I'm not a good test taker,
right?
Should I err on the side of SAT, or is that again just dependent?
So yeah, that's a really important question. Like, if you don't do any preparation at all and don't know anything, then yeah, you're probably going to prefer the SAT because you don't know how to deal with the time pressure thing. And the funny thing is, I talk to parents every day, every week, talking about, and they call up and we have a conversation about their students so I can help figure out how to help their student. And not every parent, but 90% of parents say, the thing about my student is they're not a good test taker, right? And this is the thing that everybody needs to know, and everybody who's watching needs to know, is the tests are designed to make students be bad test takers, right? These test prep companies are want to make money. They want students to take the test multiple times so that they make money, right? And so they don't want the students to go get a great score the first time. And this is my, big goal. Of course, I want students to increase their score, but what happens is, especially with, say you have a student who's a girl, she's doing great in math, she's doing great in science, she goes and takes this test, she's getting A's in all her science and math classes, and then she takes the SAT or the ACT and she gets average median score. And then she sits there and thinks, oh, maybe I'm not as good at math and science as I thought, right? That's what these tests are designed to do. And yeah, is she not a good test taker? Well, no, she's not good at taking the SAT or ACT, but no one is except for a very small percentage of people, right? So you just have to go learn how to take it, right? And don't think you're unusual that you are, bad at taking these tests. They're designed to make you mess up, right? And that's it. And so you just got to read a book or whatever. And that's what we're going to talk about is ways to, ways to get past this, right? Without having to break the bank or whatever.
Okay. Well, then I'm kind of skipping ahead, but if you're begging the question,
Sure.
Why should you decide between the ACT or SAT? And other than what you already said.
Yeah. So the most important thing is if a student just straight has taken both the SAT and ACT, and the student says, Mom, Dad, I hate the SAT and I love the ACT, or I hate the ACT and I love the SAT, you're not going to overcome that probably, right? So that's the most important thing. If the student just hates one of them, some students just really fit with the way one of the tests works. Excuse me. So that's the most important thing. If a student loves one of them, that's the thing, right? The easiest way to tell is just take both of the tests, because some students, just something about the way their mind works is better suited to one of the tests. If your starting score, and you can compare them, there are websites that let you compare them. If your starting score is higher on one of them, then take that test, right? That said, lately the SAT has had a very strange, wildly varying scoring scale over the past 2 years, and this is very like nerdy, detailed stuff. But the August SAT this year and the August SAT last year had very strange scoring scales. And if you type this into like Google SAT scoring August, you'll see all these articles in national news saying the scoring scale was really crazy off for the SAT this year. So most tutors nationwide are saying, unless you have some urgent reason to take the SAT, that the ACT is the default test right now, because the SAT just seems a little risky because the scoring is so crazy. And that's just a right now thing.
Sure. And the fact that you can take these tests over and over, I remember, I don't know if we could back when we were going to school, but I just know it was kind of a one and done, or maybe that was our thought pattern.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, it's very normal to take that test consistently until you get to the score that you want, right?
Absolutely. And there's another thing, and this is really important, because this video, people are attending now to see it live streamed, but this video is going to stay on YouTube and on the websites. Just a few weeks ago, ACT announced that starting next year, when the ACT will be available as a computer test in certain, like you can sign up and have the choice, paper or computer. They are going to start next year, or either, I think, next fall, that you can take as you're on your second attempt. You can take just one or more sections of the ACT. So on your second attempt, if you did poorly on science or math, you can come in and only take the science section or the science and the math, which is going to change everything, because then the student doesn't have to prepare for everything. And that is going to help so many students so much. It's going to change everything about test prep. And I assume, that SAT is going to be chasing this, because SAT doesn't offer a digital version yet. So a lot of things are going to be changing for students that are freshmen and sophomores. This is going to be the world they get to live in. The juniors and seniors may not get to.
So we're saying fall of 2020 is when you were.
I think it might be 2021. They just announced it. It's still in testing, right? It might only be in certain markets next fall, but then it'll be all markets, and it's only going to be certain test dates. So probably it's freshmen that are really going to get to live in this world completely. And it is a little scary to me that the whole test is going completely digital eventually, because that, I believe in having like a lot of the test is drawing lines on things. And so it'll be a little weird having it be digital, but
Well,
That's
the
it.
other thing that you bring up, or that I think of when you say that, is test fatigue. So
Yeah.
if you can focus on something and you're only sitting there for how long does a section take?
Between 35 and 40, no, 35 and 60 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, that's gonna be a big difference.
well, and the full test is 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So, like, it's exhausting. And then add in a student who gets accommodations,
Mhm.
you get double time plus extended breaks. I mean, you can spend 8 hours taking this test or have it take across 2 days. And then you stop for lunch, these are all things that, and I think this leads into some of the things we want to talk about is uh, this all becomes very complicated. And you need to talk to someone who knows how to handle these things, how to handle being exhausted during the test, right? Like a student who has ADHD needs that extra time, but you need like you need to think about what your Adderall or medicine is going to do over an 8-hour period when you're taking a test, right? Like, is it time release? When does it wear off? There is so much that goes on in this, and it's a more complicated world than when we were in school, when you just went
Yeah.
one and done, you take it and you move on and you apply to college, right?
Well,
It's
based
very
on what you know, are the schools pretty good about helping the students at least prepare for that type of stuff? Mentioning that it's this long and you should eat a great breakfast and
um Very much not. I don't think so. Many of my students know absolutely nothing about the test. And so, like, I have an email I send to my students routinely the day before each test and say, you know, like, bring a snack and eat it during the break. And when they
Mhm.
let you have a break during the sections, stand up and get out of your chair and walk around. And they don't know this. They absolutely don't know this. They don't know any of these things. This is not something that they talk about in school at all.
Yeah.
So,
And let me also put a little disclaimer in here.
yeah.
I'm not expecting the schools to do everything,
Oh,
but
sure.
I do want parents to know, that they're not getting some of this advice, and it's important for them to understand it then.
Absolutely. And this is part of, I mean, I think why we're doing this podcast or this
Mhm.
webcast, right? Is because we want to be able to give advice to people. And it's not just like, if somebody emails me and asks me a question, I'm just happy to tell people these things, right? Uh,
Mhm.
I want to tutor students and work with them to help increase their scores, but I'm also just happy to answer people's questions. That's part of why we're here, is to just get this information out there. I want everyone to have access to the information they need, and so that's why we're giving our contact information out here. Get in touch with us, ask us questions, and we're going to try over the next coming months to bring on people who are going to answer questions that we have, because we want to know more, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, no, good reminder, and I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, I'm going to ask you some more questions around this.
Yeah.
When should you start preparing for either test?
Okay, so what you want to do is work backwards from your end goal, right? So you want to send applications by November 1 of senior year, right? Which means you need to be planning your recommendations and all that. You need to be planning where you're going to apply summer of after junior year, right? You need to do your college visits and all that summer after junior year. To be able to know what colleges you're going to go to and visit, you need to know what your scores are on tests, right? That means you need to have your test scores by June, the end of junior year at the latest, if you can, right? So that means the June tests, SAT or ACT of junior year, should be the last one you take, right? You should plan on taking more than one test, because any test can go bad. Anyone can have a bad day. So that means June, May, April, March, something like that, which means your first test should probably be March at the latest, right? March or April, depending on SAT or ACT, which means then go back to prepare. If you really want to do a great job and get all the improvement you can get, you should plan on 3 months of preparation to make sure you're going to be in great shape. That means winter break of junior year, which is a great time to start because you got a little break, right? You can do
Yep.
some stuff over Thanksgiving if you want. You can do some stuff over winter break. that's a good time to sit down and take some tests and meet with people or go through books or whatever, right? So then go backwards. You could start summer before junior year, or fall of junior year, winter break of junior year, or January to March junior year. Those are all good times. And the last piece of that is the math class you're taking. The highest math covered on both tests is trigonometry or slash pre-cal. There's no calculus on either test. So if you are taking the class that gets you algebra 2, pre-cal, trig, SOHCAHTOA, like unit circle, whatever those things, ask your student, are you getting those things? When they get that, which is likely to be junior year for a lot of students, sometimes sophomore year if they're in advanced classes. If they've got that, they're ready, so they could do it then, right? So if they got that sophomore year, then just go ahead and do it summer after sophomore year.
Yeah, so what you're saying is don't wait. If
Exactly,
you don't have to wait until you're in middle of
absolutely.
the year. Okay.
Exactly. But if you haven't taken Algebra 2 yet, then you want to at least know that you're going to need to do more during junior year to pick up that last piece of math. Because there's like, if you prep before you take an Algebra 2, then you're going to have this one piece of math where you're like, there are 10 questions I do not know how to do on this test because I haven't learned it yet. And that's it. And that's the answer to that.
Right.
There's some complicated moving pieces on some of these things, but that's
well, there is, but
lays it out.
I'm hearing math is key.
Oh yeah, I think so. Just because everything else, like that's the only thing. Math, there is actual content you actually have to know. Everything else is stuff you like. Everything else is stuff that you learned somewhere along the way, like how to read, grammar, right? How to think, right? That's all the rest of the test is just general grammar rules that you learned in elementary school and things like that.
So then what's the rule if I go in and let's say I haven't had trig or pre-cal yet?
Yes.
But I want to take the test because I want to get a feel for it and I want to see how I've done and everything else.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like that test will go away. The score will go away if I get another test with another score. That's better, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, technically the score will always exist, and most colleges require that you submit all the scores, or and you can pay for something called score choice that allows you to only submit the scores you want. So if you pay an extra $50 to College Board or ACT, you can only submit the scores you wish. Otherwise, they submit all of them. But some colleges require that you submit every score. But who cares? Because virtually every college is only going to look at your highest score anyway. The only bad thing is if you submit your scores and you submit and you took the test 14 times and you got 21 13 times and then a 30 the last time, that would make you look like someone who was just rolling the dice over and over and over and finally got lucky, right? Otherwise, no one cares. So yeah, take the test. No, I do feel like there's no reason to go take the test when you're not prepared. Like, I can send you, anyone who wants, email me. I'll send you a test to take for free. I'll send you a test, take it at home. Don't pay them $50 or whatever to go take a test officially when you can take one at home, right? Why spend a whole Saturday morning doing that to get a score that's not what you want? That's my thought.
Pay an extra for it, right? Okay. Interesting. So let's talk books.
Yeah.
How do we prepare?
Okay, so this is the thing. When I was in high school, I used the book called Cracking the SAT by the Princeton Review, and then I used the book Cracking the ACT by the Princeton Review, and I used those books and I got a practically perfect score. I got a 1590 on the SAT and a 35 on the ACT, because I'm one of those people that those books made a lot of sense to, and I was able to, those strategies made perfect sense to me, which is why now I teach those strategies, right? So there are some people for whom those books are perfect and those students could just use those books, right? So step one, you should absolutely use books that have strategies in them. This is the very, very important thing, because there is the free online practice from Khan Academy that is connected to the SAT and PSAT that College Board will suggest to you after you take the PSAT, and it will say, come do free PSAT prep through Khan Academy. There's nothing wrong with that, but it does not teach any strategy at all. it teaches content. So if you don't know the rules for how to find the area of a circle, then yes, go do that. But it does not teach any strategy at all.
So tell us about what you mean by that.
Okay, so it will tell you so it will say, here is the here is the very complicated way to do something called, completing the square, or do something called, factoring a quadratic equation, right? Whereas the strategy that like, for instance, a problem says, here's a quadratic equation. Which of these answers is this one of the solutions to this quadratic equation with x squared and x and things in it, right? So a student who doesn't know how to find the solutions to that can go to Khan Academy and practice factoring that quadratic equation and finding the solutions, but they may make algebra errors and miss that question. If they didn't learn how to do that in math class, they're unlikely to suddenly learn how to not make a mistake now, right? Because they didn't learn it before. The strategy that I would teach is, there are numbers in the answers. If you just take the number in the answer and just plug it into X up above and do the arithmetic, you'll find which one's correct without doing any algebra. That's what the strategies are. Use the tricks, right? Use the numbers, check the answers, things like that. And you can get a lot of questions right without doing algebra and things like that. And Khan Academy would never mention any of these things. Or for instance, in reading comprehension, it says, what did the author mean when they said this phrase on line 37, right? And the answer in Khan Academy would say, well, if you think about this and this and this and this, then you would see that the answer means this, choice D. But I would say, well, you see in line 37, it says this. Do you match words 4 lines down? This word matches this word in the answers. That's the answer, the thing that matches, like a word search puzzle. A student who has ADD or is distracted or has trouble deeply understanding content can do that word search puzzle. That's the strategy, and the test completely is like that. That's what the strategies are. And so this is, so now to bring back to that, the free online materials are great for learning content. They do not teach any strategy. So the cheapest thing you can do is purchase Cracking the SAT by Princeton Review. That's my favorite, but there are many others, right? There are many other books. The next thing you can do is take a course. I used to teach SAT courses for Princeton Review and where I taught for Princeton Review. There are also courses from Kaplan and other places. Those are great. Depends on the teacher you get, but they're fairly standardized. They're great. Or you can work with a tutor. Generally, the tutoring business works on word of mouth. Work with someone who your friend, had success with their student, and make sure that they have a style that works well with your student. And I will be happy to talk to anyone about how my tutoring process works and what would be good for your student, because there are students that I would not work well with. And so I can tell you what kind of tutor you might need, right? And sometimes I direct people to say, okay, here's the kind of tutor you would need, right? And that's it.
Yeah,
so
I
that's the kind of choices you need.
can tell you, having 2 kids that have gone to college, Bobby, as you know, my oldest used Bobby, and he was able to increase his ACT score by 2, which got him a full ride at Alabama. My second one decided that he was going to open up a book, figure it out, and he got the score that, that he needed to get some scholarship money to go to OSU and get out of state his out of state reduced, so that at least, we weren't paying huge out of state costs. So, every kid's different, right? So
absolutely.
And you give free consultations, probably.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think it's important for everybody to know too, like, that's part of the thing, is you need to know what your goals are, because in your situation, you came to me and said, we need 2 points. And if we do, we get this enormous scholarship, because you had called the admissions office and they said, this number will get you this out of state or in-state tuition number, right? And it's this enormous difference in tuition. And so you knew exactly what the goal was. We took tests until we knew we were exactly, exceeding that goal, went and did it. So we did exactly the amount of work needed to get it. It was great, and we're able to do it very efficiently, which is the thing, right? I know people who have gone and worked 20 or 30 or 40 hours with tutors, and gotten negative results, right? And then, what my reputation is working just 2 or 3 hours or 5 hours with students and sometimes getting the results you need, because if you only need 2 or 3 points, then you can do that. And that's part of what we do sometimes.
And the only thing I'm going to change on that answer, Bobby,
Yep.
is we didn't even have to talk to the school.
Oh, really? You just looked on the website?
So for any parent out there trying to figure out, the school that your child's interested in, number one, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Get them on campus, let them look around, all that good stuff. But when they figure out which schools they're interested in, everything's on the website. You can go on there and figure out what kind of scholarships or what test scores and what grades you need.
Yeah,
to be able
it's
to get
all right there.
It's sitting there right there for you, and it's not hard to find.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, a lot of times, go look on the website and don't necessarily ask your friends, right? Start with the website, because your friends are going to tell you crazy things a lot of times.
Well, they will. And we've got 4 more minutes. I do have a question that I hear a lot, or at least I hear a lot of chatter from parents, and that is the essays.
Oh, yeah.
What do we do with that?
Okay, so yeah, the essay, it's changed over and over and over the years. The essay was required for a long time, and it was part of the test, it was part of the score. Currently now, they've made both tests the same way. The essay is optional. It's the optional essay. So you have to decide, and this is the question I get from parents every time. Like, I always get the message, so I put it in my welcome email. The essay is optional, so you have to decide whether to sign up for it. And it does not impact your score. It is a separate score, so it's not part of your overall score. But it is not optional, really. The colleges can require it if they want. So, for instance, Texas A&M University requires that you take the essay. So if the college requires that you take the essay, you better take the essay, unless you know for sure that every college you might apply to does not require the essay. The number of schools requiring it is going down, but A&M and I think University of Texas both still require it. So take the essay. Also, if you don't take it, you have to take some kind of weird experimental section that lasts an hour as well. So.
Well, how do you know if a school's going to take an essay or wants the essay or not? Again, is it on the website?
Yeah, it's on the website. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. And also there's, if you type into Google colleges that require the SAT essay, there's some, because some of them aren't very clear about it. So there are websites that have collected up the list, and it changes every year. But I mean, really, the thing is, just take it, because even if you don't take it, you have to take a weird experimental section that's like an extra math or reading section, and then they pretend like it's scored, and then that makes you worried that section, that weird new section, was scored. And so, yeah, just take the essay. Right? It's terrible.
Okay.
That's it. So I'm really excited. I think these are just all the questions that I've been, hearing from parents over the years. And of course, you can contact either of us anytime. My website is bobbyhoodtestprep.com, and there's a contact form on there. Just click Contact Bobby Hood, and I will be happy to get on the phone with you, have a consultation, or just answer your email. Any questions you might have. Always happy to talk to anyone about this stuff. As you can see, I will talk at length about this anytime anyone wants.
Great. And you can get a hold of me at KristinClark.com. That's Kristin with an I, Clark.com. Or you can go to my Facebook page, Kristin Clark Coaching. And, you can reach me either way. Same thing. And Bobby, I would say too, this is such a hot topic for parents of college students. So I think that we probably need to revisit this, some more in the future. So we'll plan that out. Next week, I take that back.
Yeah. In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, we will talk about what I do with students and strengths finders, and
Excellent.
Why that's important for your student to understand their natural talents and how it helps them find a career.
I can't wait. That's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, we'll be revisiting that in more depth. Of course, test prep will be something we discuss, but then also we're going to be bringing in guests to tell us more about things we want to know more about, and we'd love to get suggestions from people who are watching. So feel free to contact us and let us know things that you're interested in that we can talk about in the future. So thanks so much. This is great, Kristin. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk soon.
All righty. Bye-bye.